because a lot of pro-lifers are not going to tell you this. They're going to say, abortion's horrible, but let's say I'm the woman. I get an abortion pill. Am I going to be prosecuted under murder charges? No, of course not. It's just the abortionist. And the problem with that, though, is like, that's not being just. Or even if we use like certain weeks, right? Abortion is good up until 6 weeks marks. You're saying children from like that point on. So as an abolitionist, we say it doesn't work. Incrementalism really doesn't work. With slavery, what abolished slavery wasn't incrementalism. It was individuals, Christian abolitionists that came in and said, no, slavery's done. We don't care if like he's this age, no, it's done.
So I asked, how is abortion murder? What's that?
So let's just definition, okay? The definition of murder, you can Google this, is premeditated, unlawful, or unjustified taking of innocent life, okay? I would say murder, so we can Google right now, when does life begin scientifically? We'll say fertilization. If you put that on Google, 96% of biologists will agree that life begins at conception, fertilization, conception. Therefore, if there is new unique DNA, there's a new zygote with chromosomes from both the mother and the father, it's unique. It is not your DNA, it's not mine. Let's just say hypothetically, right? At that point, terminating that life would be murder because it hasn't committed a crime, and it's been premeditated. I knew exactly what I was doing. Now, miscarriage would not be considered an abortion. It wasn't premeditated. Having an ectopic pregnancy would not be murder. That wasn't premeditated. It's all about premeditation and it being unjust.
So what is your position on the woman who came up here? Like if you really don't want this child, you don't think you're going to be able to care for this child.
That's a great question. So I would say that killing the child is still never the option. And there are 36, you Google this, 36 adoptive families here in the USA for every one child. Parents want children. I would say in that case, give it up for adoption. Rape itself is rape and incest together equates to, this is from the Guttmacher Institute, is a pro-choice institute, not pro-life. It's about 0.5%. That's still horrible. I would condemn the rapist. I think the rapist should either be put to death or life in prison. But we should never come to the conclusion of like, therefore kill the child.
So pregnancy is 9 months and it can kill you.
It's very low, though, the mortality rate. It's about 0.0001% chance. But it does happen.
You defined murder as the unjust, unlawful, or unnecessary.
Not unnecessary, unjust premeditated. Because unnecessary is subjective.
Unjust.
Premeditated. Well, that's the definition of murder.
How do you define just? I just feel like the definition hinges on your definition of justice.
Okay, well, let's use it legality-wise. But I would also say this is a great question, too. Unjust, really what it comes down to is the Bible. That's how I'd say every justice comes down to the Bible. That's our furthest core bedrock. But, I mean, even legality, too.
So just is defined as legal?
We could say legal. I would say, well, in today, legal, but also biblical, yes.
Also biblical.
But we could say legal, like murder. If I killed you, you know, obviously I never would. If I did and you didn't do anything wrong, of course would be held liable. That would be unjust. You haven't committed anything. Like, it's not in self-defense.
So actually, that's where I'm going.
Okay, let's go.
If you're defining just as lawful.
Sure. And ultimately biblical.
Because
laws can change, because slavery was legal a few hundred years ago. So ultimately, like my just will ultimately come back to the Bible.
Okay, so then I think I'm going to fall back on the biblical definition of justice. The biblical definition of justice tends to be a little bit eye for an eye.
It can be, yes.
Like Old Testament justice.
Sure. Which is why I think the rapist should be put to death.
If something comes into your life that so thoroughly upends it and destroys everything you've worked to build, there is an argument that like killing that person is a justified response.
Oh, is a justified
response.
I hear what you're saying, but the only problem is the baby hasn't done anything. So again, that would be the father. So the rapist who committed the crime, absolutely. But the baby itself, that's why it said it's been unjustified or premeditated.
You're still stuck with like almost a year that this woman has to just deal with this.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but again, like, killing should never be the option, whether giving it up for adoption, right? Again, 36 adoptive families for every one child. Give it up for adoption. Again, I'm not a woman. I'm very empathetic. I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like to be pregnant because I don't. But it should never come to killing ever. And now, if there is a complication, a lot of women will bring this up, I have a complication. Sometimes, again, an abortion is actually never medically necessary, believe it or not. What you would get in that case is you either have early term delivery or an emergency C-section. So some people, they're not going to be able to go all full term because let's say something erupts. Unfortunately, you might have to induce early term pregnancy, early term labor. Now, as an unfortunate result, the baby might die, but what was the premeditation? The premeditation was to save the child. It was never to go in deliberately with, let's say, tweezers, a DNC abortion, to kill it. So that's why I said premeditated. Does that make sense? Or I'll give you another example. Let's just say they have to get an emergency C-section. The baby, so is a late term abortion, the baby has to come out at some point. Why kill it? The baby's got to come out. But people love death. They don't care about the baby coming out. They know the baby's got to come out. They just don't want the burden of responsibility. And what I would say with that, again, we know that 99.5% of abortions, this is from the Guttmacher Institute, I'll put all the overlays here, are due to inconvenience. 0.5% due to rape and incest. That's horrible. I would say death penalty or put them in prison. But even in that, the baby's done nothing. And because biblically as Christians, we're against murder. Thou shalt not murder. Psalm 51:5, just biblically. King David says that I was sinful from conception. We know that life begins from conception, both scientifically, but also biblically. So from conception onwards, it would be murder. So we have to defend the innocent. And I just want to, this is just a thought experiment, okay? In the early 1800s, before slavery was abolished, it was the same individuals that were saying, like my body, my choice, my body, my choice, my slave, my prerogative, my slave, my property. Christian abolitionists, now I'm an abolitionist, I'm not considered pro-life, I'm actually an abolitionist, because pro-life, and we can explain the difference, pro-life is a step, but it still is basically what pro-life is saying, is like, okay, these abortions are bad, but these abortions are okay.
Pro is permissible.
Sure, exactly. Or, because a lot of pro-lifers are not going to tell you this. They're going to say, abortion's horrible, but can I buy, let's say I'm the woman, I get an abortion pill, am I going to be prosecuted under murder charges? No, of course not. It's just the abortionist. And the problem with that, though, is like that's not being just. Or even if we use like certain weeks, right? Abortion is good up until 6 weeks mark. So you're saying children from like that point on. So as an abolitionist, we say it doesn't work. Incrementalism really doesn't work. With slavery, what abolished slavery wasn't incrementalism. It was individuals, Christian abolitionists, that came in and said, no, slavery's done. We don't care if like he's this age, no, it's done. And that's what allowed it to happen. So you can search up Abolitionist. There's a really good channel. His name's Abolitionist Rising. I'm going to meet up with him. He's in Oklahoma. He's much smarter than me. But if you are a Christian, I would encourage you to be more of an abolitionist. But it doesn't sound pretty. It doesn't sound pretty to prosecute people on murder charges.
My issue is always just like, I think I said it before, like that's 9 months that you don't get back. And like to say an abortion isn't medically necessary, you do have a point. My issue with anti-abortion legislature is that it freaks people out.
Right.
So there have been deaths in this state that would have been preventable a few years ago, but doctors were so scared of being accused of performing an abortion. It might not even actually have been an abortion.
Sure.
They were just so afraid of being accused and prosecuted for that. People died.
Yeah, go ahead. So what I would say, the bill that we would support or I would support is called the 2023 South Carolina Equal Protections Act. So with that, just what the bill is, because there's a lot of confusion. Ectopic pregnancy would never be considered an abortion. Miscarriage would never be considered an abortion. Anything in the past before that bill, there would be no prosecution. And there would have to be documentation as it 100% happened. Just having this like, I guarantee, trust me bro, that happened, it's not going to cut it. Just like with any term of law. So it would be very deliberate, as in there were MRI scans, there were ultrasound scans, deliberate. They were jotted down, and even with like a lot of miscarriages, the woman, usually speaking, goes in and she's shown there's no heartbeat. That's all documented. Of course, she wouldn't be put on murder charges. So that would be the bill. It's either 2019 or 2023. And I just want to give you one more thing too. In Louisiana, okay, a few years ago, there was an abolition bill that was going to be passed. So it was going to be the first state that is 100% abolished. But guess who actually overturned it? Like, who came out against it to say, no, we don't want this?
I'm gonna guess it was Christian women, or like pro-life.
It was pro-life organizations. So pro-life in and of itself isn't really what it's made out to be. It looks good on paper, and they're good at educating. But if we, like, at the end of the day, okay, this is going to sound bad, but like if we don't have any fear or consequence, and I say this to myself, then we'll keep doing it. We can know it's bad. And then also the last thing I want to say with abolitionists too, the biggest thing with abolitionists is that we're Christian. A lot of pro-life, they try to tackle it from a secular perspective. But we believe that you can't attack it from a secular perspective because ultimately the bedrock is the Bible. We're all made in the image of God. If we take that out and we're just secular, it's kind of just like a eugenic game.
So your argument heavily relies on life beginning at conception.
Absolutely, yeah.
What if it doesn't?
Well, I would say then all those biologists are wrong. I would say the Bible's wrong. If it didn't begin, like we knew quantitatively it didn't begin, then my argument would be completely different, 100% different.
That's the other issue I have. At its core, abortion is a question of whose life is more important.
I would say they're both equally as important. But don't you think it's more so it just comes down to like a level of convenience? Not because we know both lives are important. We know that.
For some people it will, but for some people it will be
In what case would it be for that then?
A very close friend of mine grew up in an abusive home.
Yeah, that's hard to hear that.
They are familiar with the foster care system.
Yep.
They know what it's like to be raised by somebody who should have remained childless.
Yeah.
The question of abortion, should abortion be legal?
Sure.
there will be people who will do it for convenience, but there will also be people who weren't financially ready, weren't emotionally ready. The foster care system is not
ideal.
a great place to be.
Ideal.
So
I would still say it's better than death, though.
So the question is, who gets to make that determination?
Yeah, well, I believe it should be put in law, right? And again, as Christians, the salt of the earth, we are the ones who really are those abolitionists to say, hey, because I'll just give you an example. There's 1 million abortions a year here in America. We know, again, the Guttmacher Institute, don't take my word for it, 99.5% of abortions are due to inconvenience. They're not, the vast majority are not due to like, oh, I couldn't have financial aid or I couldn't have this. People know what they're doing. And the biggest reason we're having abortions is just because we're having sex outside marriage, we're being irresponsible, and we do not want the child. That is like over 90% of them. Are there some situations where she doesn't have enough money? Absolutely. Again, like I would say, give it up for adoption. And also, I want to say this too. When you give it up for adoption before it's born, it's not going into the foster care. The foster care, like my cousin, he was born after about a year or two, usually due to neglect loss, they're then put in the foster care. It's not ideal, still better than killing, but a baby, straight from the womb, you choose your parents beforehand. There's no way it's going to the foster care. So a lot of people conflate that too. And then what I was saying too is, what was that other thing I was going to say? Yeah, we don't know. We can't play God. Like, I'll give you an example, right? My younger cousin, he was in the foster care. He was 2 years old and we brought him out. He has an amazing life now. But if we were to kill him beforehand due to like certain laws, then I wouldn't have him. So we just don't know 100%.
So...
You want to... Just friendly conversation. There was a little kerfuffle with the lady. I think they can attest. We did nothing. She's been very respectful. We just are here for friendly convo.
Yeah, we came down here. We got her.
It was bad. Like, she wanted to break the camera, beat me up, break my sign. Like, it's all on camera.
You piss me the fuck off.
Okay.
You don't belong here. This hateful bullshit doesn't belong here. And all of y'all that believe this shit, get your fucking heads on straight. I should beat the fucking shit out of you.
You want to go to jail? We keep going. We can wrap it up. It's whatever you want. You've been phenomenal. I'll give you the YouTube channel. I really like you. But what I would encourage you, though, is like, do search up more on abolitionist stuff, because a lot of times what we do, like I was pro-life too, we don't know the difference. Like, we're kind of taught by pro-life, like, oh, this is what it is. But in reality, there's a lot of dark stuff that we don't know. And it's just, we have to be consistent, though, at a certain point. Like, it's very hard for us to be like, for me, I wouldn't do this, but like for other people, that can only take us so far.
Well, it's a difference,
especially when it comes to law.
Your opinion of morality and your opinion of policy. Like,
okay, morality as Christians, we have our morality.
In my opinion, it is not the government's role to impose morals. Okay. So if, like, abortion trips me up because, like I said, like I'm pretty sure it's a question of whose life is more important, who gets to make that determination. But really easy example is like currently illegal drugs. If you are a fully consenting adult and you know what you're doing, I don't care if you do 10 lines of coke. I don't think it's the government's responsibility to, like, I think it might be the government's responsibility to make sure that you know that might kill you.
Right.
And to make sure that you don't go and do something stupid like try and drive a forklift.
Sure.
But if you just want to sit by yourself and, like,
what if this, though? I just want to give you a hypothetical, though, okay? Let's just say they were on the cocaine and they drove a forklift and they killed a baby.
That should be illegal.
So that would be the same argument with abortion, because the baby hasn't done anything. That's kind of where I'm bringing it full circle.
Okay, so your kind of justification there is that the baby hasn't done anything.
Innocence, yes. Unjustified. If it's justified, we're in a completely different world.
Okay.
I would just say research more on abolitionist rising. Just see if you like the arguments. I really do think you will, because you're even beginning to think like pro-life will eventually hit a wall. It will say certain things, but it'll keep like contradicting itself at a certain point. It's just a lot easier to be either all in or all out. So we bring pro-lifers to become abolitionists. That's really how we changed. That's me. That was me. I only became an abolitionist like 5 months ago. I was pro-life beforehand too. And then I researched a lot of these things. And I was like, oh, I was lied to about all this stuff. Usually it's not so much from pro-life, it's from pro-choice. Every woman's raped, every this. And it's like, okay, but like, where are we getting these stats? I would love to see the stats. I'm not disacknowledging that it does happen. I know what happens. I'm not for that. That's absolutely horrible. But we have to look at things objectively and holistically. That's all. Especially if we're making laws. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
You've been phenomenal.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being
for
civil and for riding out
yeah.
for the police, because like we're not here to fight. We don't want beef. We don't want nothing like that. Christ developed. Yeah. Put it on YouTube. Watch the videos, and you'll learn a ton. And like, you're already very smart, and I think like I can see you going from pro-life to abolition. So you've been phenomenal. All right, brother. Let's go. Thank you so much. Okay.